I pledge allegiance to the flag
The United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome. Is there anyone here for the 2-minute open forum?
Mr. Mayor, we have a representative here tonight from the Central Minnesota Arts Board. Leslie?
Oh, thank you. That's kind of quick.
Oh, yeah.
And I have 2 minutes?
Yes.
That's it?
You can talk a little bit longer,
Okay, all right.
as long as the mayor says yes.
Okay,
Hey,
okay.
you were in the Senate, you're a representative, you know how that goes.
I do, and I definitely
You're out of control.
I'm already out of control. I definitely respect that. Well, Mayor, members of the council, and guests, thank you for giving me time here today. My name is Leslie LeCure. I am the Executive Director of the Central Minnesota Arts Board. And first, I want to present you with some information, and I'll just let you hand that out. And I want to congratulate all of you on this upcoming project that you have going on with the amphitheater, for your vision and your support for this project. And I'm here to present you with a letter of support from the Central Minnesota Arts Board to be presented to the governor. You have a great project, and I'm happy to say that Shauna was at our office last week educating us on all of the details of this project and asked us for a letter of support. So on behalf of my board of directors, I'm here presenting you with that letter to be presented to the governor. You have great elected officials that are behind your request for $5 million of bonding money, and you just have to convince the gov that it's a good project and worth investing in. And we certainly believe that it will not only be an asset to our region, but an asset to the whole state. So thank you for everything you're doing on behalf of that project. And since I'm here, if I could take just a couple of
Absolutely.
minutes to share some information with you about the Central Minnesota Arts Board. Many of you probably know about the Central Minnesota Arts Board and the reason the arts are so important to all of us, but I'm here to draw your attention to it. Minnesota's Regional Arts Council system was created in 1977. And it was a means by which we would disperse the resources that the legislature appropriated for the arts throughout the state. There's not another system like it in the nation, and we are, the rest of the nation covets what we have here in the state of Minnesota. And then in 2008, the voters of Minnesota elected to increase their sales tax by 0.3% in support of the Legacy Amendment. And that tripled the resources that we have available to invest in the arts, and things have really taken off since then. I noticed in your packet for the amphitheater, you had information about the economic impact, and I'll touch on that in a second. And I'll only take a couple of minutes here. I want to draw your attention to, first of all, I brought you each a copy of the letter to the governor. The next item in your packet is a brochure for the Central Minnesota Arts Board, which explains the 11 programs that we have available to the 4 counties of Benton, Sherburne, Stearns, and Wright. That's the area that we serve. We are the 3rd largest regional arts council out of the 11. And we have 5 granting programs that's funded by the general fund and the legacy fund. And then we also, and our most popular program is a project grant program that we have 3 rounds. And the city of Waite Park actually accessed, I think it was the project grant a couple of years ago for poetry in the sidewalk
yes,
project.
in the library, yes.
At the library,
Yep.
so you've enjoyed a little bit of our resources. And then we have another 6 programs that are available to individual artists. And the highlight there is our Individual Artist Award program that provides $3,500 awards to 7 artists just for their the artistic merit of their work. all areas of art, and we do that every year. That money comes from the McKnight Foundation. They've been a generous funder of the arts throughout the state of Minnesota for 40 years now. And I mentioned, okay, so the next item in your packet is our annual report for the Central Minnesota Arts Board, and that comes out every year, is also available on our website. And it breaks down all of our granting in the state, in the 4 counties by county, Benton, Sherburne, Stearns, and Wright, and also by organizations and communities, and then individuals. So you can see what we invest on behalf of the McKnight Foundation and individuals on the back in each county, and what we invest into the cities, nonprofit arts organizations, and others, 501c3s by county. So we've invested over $387,221 in just in Stearns County alone last year, and I think you have enjoyed about $17,000 of that or something. Great Theater is in your area, and a couple of other, some of the schools that have been eligible have accessed grants. So that's where we're at with that. Also in your packet, I mentioned that you had the 2013 economic impact study in your data, but we've had 4 years of grant making since then. And this is an updated version of the economic impact. It also includes the spending of individual artists. And now the impact is almost $46 million in the 4 counties. And as you can see, it also identifies that there's about 4,800 artists and creative workers in our region that average about $19 an hour in their average wage. And additional statistics are on the back that show that spending generates about $5 million in economic impact to our local governments. So the arts are really big business, and the Central Minnesota Arts Board is available to assist you with your programming and support for your project. We don't provide any capital funding for building projects, but once you get that built, we're going to be right there to help you with your events, and look forward to serving Waite Park in the future. So do you have any questions for me while I'm here?
Got any pull with the governor anymore?
Once in a while. He just appointed me a year ago now to the...
So do you want a good word when we talk
the-
to him, or do you want a bad word when we talk?
I am a good word with the governor. He appointed me to the Perpich Center for Arts Education Board of Directors. I've been on there for about a year, and you know, my name is a positive in his midst. So my name is on the letter, and I'll try to put in a good word through the back door as well.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Very
Thank
much.
It was a
you.
pleasure meeting with you and your staff. It was really nice to be able to make the connections.
Yeah, she traveled out to Foley and came and visited us in our neck of the woods, so thank you. And thanks for this time, I appreciate it.
Yep, you bet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for 2 minutes? Anyone else? All right, consent agenda. Oops, review and approve the council agenda.
Move to. Second.
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, passed unanimously. Consent agenda. Item A, approve 2018 property casualty insurance. Item B, approve public works seasonal worker appointments. Item C, approve Highway 23 coalition membership. And item D, approve health savings account MOUs for maintenance workers, police officers, police administration, and non-union employees.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passed unanimously. All right, Wellhead Protection Plan, Part 2. Notice is hereby given that the City of Waite Park will hold a public hearing to review Part 2 of its Wellhead Protection Plan consistent with the Minnesota Wellhead Protection Rule, Part 4720.5350. Subpart 4. Sounds like some legislator got a hold of that one. public hearing will be held on Monday, April 2nd, 2018 at 6:30 PM or shortly thereafter during the regularly scheduled city council meeting at Way Park City Hall. Any questions or comments can be directed to William Schlunz, Public Works Director. Comments can also be made at the public hearing. It is 6:42. The public hearing is open.
Your Honor, we have Melanie Nide from our office that's going to give a little brief presentation. Melanie's been working on the wellhead protection plan, so if you would, Melanie, show us your stuff.
Do we wanna-
Oh, that's me, sorry. I don't have to do this very often, so I apologize.
Oh, there we go, yeah. Yes, I'm Melanie Nide, and I'm a hydrogeologist. I work here in St. Cloud. And I'm gonna present a little portion on here, just kind of summarizing what we're doing and why we're doing it, that type of thing. And then I'm gonna have Mark Sherrill, he is a hydrogeologist from our St. Paul office, and he did a lot of that legwork with the GIS's work and things like that. And I thought I'd have him kind of present some of that information, and we'll keep it kind of focused and to the point, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask us at any time. Sometimes it's just easier just to keep it, answer it when it comes to mine there. So officially, like I said, it's part of the public hearing. What is a wellhead protection plan? I don't know if anybody here, if everyone has had a chance to look at it, but it's a tool to prevent drinking water from becoming polluted by managing potential sources of contamination in the area which supplies water to a public well. As we were saying, all communities are required to do a wellhead protection plan under the Safe Drinking Water Act. And communities are, prioritized on potential well vulnerability and populations. The main point is we're trying to keep your water resources clean. The plan has been done in two parts, and just to kind of refresh your memory, there was a part one, and I was just talking to Karen Voss from the Minnesota Department of Health, who's here tonight, and she said, yeah, it's been like 2 years ago that, we completed the part one, which essentially is we delineated the area that we determined needed to be managed and protected. And that public meeting associated with that was held in October of 2017, and now we are working on the part two. And for the part two, we established some goals and objectives and contingencies, and we've been working with Bill and even John and Karen and many hours sitting together and finding out what's the best way to manage the city's wellhead protection area. As part of the part one, we did look at the geologic setting. So we wanted to look to see what, the dimensions of the aquifer and the interconnectedness of some of those things in there. And ultimately, we did completed a groundwater model. As you can see in here, each one of those lines, it's a flow line. So water in that area is traveling toward your municipal wells. And so it's kind of a tracking of where the water's coming from. And that's what was used to determine what we call the WHPA. Up there is the Wellhead Protection Area. And the DWSWMSMA, the DWISMA we call it, is used to kind of highlight that. The Wellhead Protection Area uses all of the property, when, let's say we only use a part of a parcel that's maybe 160 acres, the whole parcel gets brought with that. And so you can see the outer line there, the red line that's out there, it kind of goes out far, but it has to do with land ownership and parcel ownership.
What do the different colors mean on that? The red, the green, the blue?
It's timeline, isn't it? What is kind of a timeline? Yeah, as far as how quickly they're traveling.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, and that's a good point. It's a 10-year. Ultimately, we go out 10 years from the the travel time it takes for 10 years for that water to reach the wells, or in your case, a well field, I guess. So, and then as part of that, you can kind of still see the same outline of that what we call the DWISMA, the wellhead protection area, we start looking at vulnerabilities. The whole St. Cloud area is a little not as advantageous when it comes to groundwater as other parts of the state, because a lot of your sand just sits on granite, okay? And you're getting your water from these sands, and there's not a lot to protect that water quality naturally, as opposed to other parts of the state where they're putting in deep bedrock wells where they're drawing their water. Those aquifers are much better protected. So in your case, parts of your wellhead protection area are pretty highly vulnerable to potential contamination. So that's kind of how we start looking at some of the things there. In the part 2, probably the biggest step, I think, initially is that first step, that inventory of potential contaminant sources. And this is where Mark came in. He's the GIS expert, okay? And we're looking at anything that could be a potential contaminant that could contaminate the aquifer, and mapping that across that zone so we know where they are and we can use it to manage that zone in the future. We also identified some other issues, problems, and opportunities. We developed a plan of action to manage those potential contaminant sources that we identified, and also establish an alternate water supply, or a contingency strategy, for emergency purposes. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mark here, and he'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that we look in the actual management, which is what the part 2 that we're looking to adopt tonight.
Thanks, Melanie. So we'll start off the major components of the plan here, and that's the potential contaminant source, and that was basically an inventory of potential contaminants that are around the wellhead protection area. And after we got those established, we formed a working group with the Minnesota Department of Health and Bill and Melanie and myself, and then we looked at those more in detail. Some of the ones that came up are here as a list in front of you, and they included the wellhead protection plan spanning 3 different city boundaries, and so that's can become a challenge, because it's not only the city of Waite Park that has to look at the wellhead protection area and manage it. It's also St. Cloud and also St. Joseph Township. So other big challenges are too is the well field is actually in the city too, so it's managing future land use and knowing that the land use is going to evolve over time, and then also actually sites that have been known for contamination as well.
Quick question on contamination. Land use, agriculture. You see a lot of things going on now with agriculture, trying to get them to use less chemicals.
Yeah.
Are you seeing any problem in our water system with those types of chemicals getting put into the?
The current water that's coming from Waite Park is actually meets all of Minnesota Department, health guideline standards, and so they've. Bill can talk more to this.
Yeah,
but.
the main one is your nitrates, and our nitrates are extremely low. You have to look at that as you go back and can picture that DWISMA map. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of agricultural that's feeding that. So that's part of it. That's why we're down so low.
I know at the south end is where it all is. We don't have too much of that water coming in to our water system at all.
No, it's quite minimal. I think we calculated maybe 400 or 500 acres of possible tillable land that was in our DWISMA, which was extremely low compared to what you would think you would see in another. St. Joe would be completely the opposite, where they'd probably have 90% of their stuff in agriculture, because where their well fields are at versus ours. So.
And I think looking ahead too, we saw more land being developed too, so there might even be less agricultural land and going ahead in the next 10 years of the plan. So here's actually a list of future land use. And if you were to compare this to the current land use, you'd see a lot more commercial and industrial being brought into the municipalities. And so that would include maybe shifting your focus from looking at potential contaminants that would be in residential properties, and more so looking at like property use that might bring in tanks or hazardous waste generators. this is a complete list of the potential contaminants that we inventoried for the plan. And you see things like wells, dumps, and animal feedlots, which is just one, but just as an example of the things that we were inventory for the plan. The next step was, after we had inventoried what potential contaminant sources are within the wellhead protection area, we wanted to establish how best to deal with them and how we want to look at them going forward over the next 10 years of the plan. To do that, we looked at what issues there are and what opportunities there are to address those potential contaminant sources. And so we determined like what were the high priorities and what were the low priorities. Some of the high priorities we looked at were like new high capacity wells that might change the water quality or the water quantity, and also making sure that all the municipalities in the area knew that they were contributing to the source water aquifer. So, and our goal that we established for the wellhead protection plan was the City of Waite Park is to promote public health, economic development, and community infrastructure by maintaining a potable drinking water supply for all residents of the community, both now and into the future. And to meet that goal, we created objectives such as create awareness, manage potential contaminant sources, and get the word out there, essentially. And then we get into the management strategies. This is kind of like where the bulk of the plan comes in. You take the potential contaminant source and then you create a management strategy to address that potential contaminant source. So one of the potential contaminant sources is underground storage tanks, and the way that we're going to address that in the plan is to put a mailing, actually a link on the city website of best management practices for storage tank owners. And so they'll know how best to manage their tank to protect the source water aquifer that feeds the water for the area. The last part of the plan is a water contingency strategy. It's required by the EPA, but Minnesota actually has a water supply plan that meets this category for the wellhead protection plan. The plan's currently in development right now, so we have a plan in place right now until that's approved, and I think it's going to be 2019. To make sure that we're following all the management strategies and everything for the plan, we have an evaluation program, and just to make sure we're following along with everything and meeting all the goals of the plan. And then that's it for the plan. So any questions or comments?
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone that has a question, comment? Anyone?
If I could just speak to the council. I'm Karen Voss, I'm with the Minnesota Department of Health, and I had the pleasure of working with Bill and John and Melanie and Mark on getting the plan completed. And so I just wanted to commend the city for their efforts in taking steps to protect their drinking water supply for the residents of Waite Park. And I especially appreciated John's participation in the wellhead planning process. I think it's really important to include planning and economic development partners in wellhead because it's based on land uses. And so I just wanted to thank him. I'm not always able to get someone from the planning department or economic development to participate in wellhead planning, but I think it's really important that they do. And so I just wanted to thank your staff for their time and just thank the city of Waite Park for making the effort to protect their drinking water.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Anybody else? It is still a public hearing.
I just wanted to comment too, it's been out for review for 60 days, and as I just told Karen and Melanie and and Mark, that we did not receive any comments from any other LGUs, so that's a good sign. I really want to say on my behalf from the City of Waite Park to thank everybody that worked on that, including John. It was great to have him on the team with it, so I think it turned out a really nice product.
What do you want to move to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed at 6:57. Council, your wish is to approve or deny the adoption of the Wellhead Protection Plan Part 2.
I move the adoption of the Wetland Protection Plan Part 2.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Good job.
Mr. Watzka.
We still have the old way for you, Terry.
This is the plan approval item for the 2018 overlay improvement project. Essentially, we've got 5 different.
Terry, could you talk to the microphone, please?
Here.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Thanks for the reminder. This is the plan approval for the 2018 overlay improvement project. We essentially have 5 sites that we're planning to do the improvements. The site on 13th Avenue, right outside the door here, between Division Street and 3rd Street North. We have 1st Street North, between Wade Avenue and 2nd Avenue, right in front of the nursing home. I gotta make sure I turn right here to do this. We have 6th Avenue, between Division Street and 2nd Street South. We have Wade Avenue between 2nd Street South and the South City limits. And then we have Old Highway, what's referred to as Old Highway North. It's the old Trunk Highway 23, very old Trunk Highway 23, out by the Anderson Trucking property. So on those sites, if you flip through your plan set, you'll see the various treatments that we're doing. 13th Avenue gets an edge mill and overlay. 6th Avenue gets an edge mill and overlay. 1st Street North gets what we call a mill and fill, where we completely remove the bituminous in there and put in new bituminous. Same thing happens on Wade Avenue. On Old Trunk Highway North, that is a rural section roadway. What we're doing is what we call a reclamation, where we grind up the existing bituminous and the aggregate base that's underneath that and lay new bituminous down. So that's, thanks. So, maybe. Hello? Yeah. Does that work?
Yes.
Yep. All right. So that's essentially the scope of the improvements. I could go through the plan sheets with you. There is one thing I wanted to mention. Bill wanted to try doing some special crosswalk treatments on 13th Avenue. So at 1st Street, 2nd Street, and 3rd Street, we plan to have, I'll call it, for lack of a better word, a polypreform type of treatment where it's a hot inlaid, it's laid right after the bituminous laid. They heat this up and they press it into the fresh bituminous, so there's not hopefully an edge there for the plows to catch. What we're looking at is a brick pattern with a standard white crosswalk painted on either side of the brick pattern.
Before we get into that, I have a question for you, Terry.
Sure.
With regard to Wade Avenue, from 2nd Avenue south to the southern city limits,
Yes.
being Wade Avenue on the west side is Wade Park and on the east side of Wade Avenue, St. Cloud, are we going to do just half a road?
So I'm glad you brought that up. I was getting to that. On Wade Avenue, you're right, Chuck. A good part of that is split but right down the city limit line. Over the past several weeks, I've been attempting to hear from the city engineer in St. Cloud regarding these improvements. The last time I talked to him, he told me that they do not have anything planned in their budget for improvements on Wade Avenue. So we're including Wade Avenue here as an alternate. And that means that we can choose to award it with or without the Wade Avenue improvements. So with regard to Wade Avenue, I would mention that 2 years ago when we had Wade Avenue in the capital improvement plan, it was as a mill and fill. And then last year it got in as an overlay, and really the proper treatment is a mill and fill. And so it got a little bit more expensive. Not a little bit more expensive, it's twice as expensive to do a mill and fill as it is an edge mill and overlay. So when I'm looking at the estimate, and I'm going to show that to you here in a minute, as it turns out, our estimate for all of the improvements is just about right on the capital improvement budget, and that's including a contingency and the engineering services. So I think from the city's perspective, the budget looks pretty good, but what it doesn't include is probably probably $100,000 contribution from the city of St. Cloud for their half of the street. So you could choose to go forward with the Wade Avenue improvements and essentially pay for their half of the street. We could ask St. Cloud if we could go forward with it this year and have them pay next year. I think I was pretty much told they don't have the budget for it this year. So I think that's something
I don't think, excuse me, I don't think option one is a very good one.
Okay.
Option two might be.
Okay. And I think I'm going to work with Shauna to try to get some concurrence from St. Cloud Finance on whether that's a viable alternative.
What we felt was important was to just get the numbers on the road, because I know that we have a lot of residents that have concerns about that.
Done.
And then to see whether or not we can work with the city of St. Cloud to come up with some way, because their timing isn't right. And I get that, but how much do we wait? Because the longer we wait, the more expensive it becomes, but as we've been seeing here. So maybe we can work an arrangement with them for that. And if we can't, then we may have to look at delaying that project.
I think it would be best to delay it until we find out what's gonna happen with St. Cloud.
Well, it doesn't,
We can put that money someplace else if we have to.
And so the way we've got the bid set up is it's as an alternate. We can choose to either bid it with or without, and that's a decision that you can make. Here again, we'll bring this award to you for your May 7th council meeting. We do have, I talked to Bill about urgency, certain things, and time schedule. The trunk highway, Old Highway North, we've got that scheduled to be done before June 1st. So that hopefully gets done quickly because I know that roadway is in bad disrepair. 13th Avenue, we we talked about starting actually a week after Spaztag. You don't call it Spaztag anymore.
Family Fun Fest.
Family Fun Fest. So Bill was going to do some water and sewer service changes there at the park. We'll do that the week after Family Fun Fest, and then he can start 13th Avenue the following week. So the improvements, including the alternates for Wade Avenue, and we're taking the crosswalks also as an alternate, so we can kind of see what the price is. Any chance to zoom in on that, or does this?
Kind of fuzzy.
The bottom line, because I know you're bottom line guys, $818,000, including contingency and engineering for all the improvements. I believe the capital improvement plan budget was $826 for these improvements.
Also, Shauna, if you want to share my view. So going back to the crosswalk alternate on 13th here, like Terry talked about, it's probably the best picture I could come up really fast here. Obviously, we're not doing 4 squares. We're just talking about going straight across the street in 4 locations, or 3 locations at first, second, and third. So you can kind of get a little visual of what that looks like. It looks like a red brick with a white outline on the outside. And actually, this product has a black strip. So it's a little piece of black, then a white, and then it's the brick. So it actually stands, that white strip stands out a little bit more. So hope to take an alternate on it and see where the numbers come in at. I thought it'd be a great place to put it, especially for our park, you know, more of a beautification type of thing. It's not something that you're gonna wanna put in every street and every corner in town, but maybe more in your walking areas and trails, so. Just wanted you to see it, what it looked like.
So is this a liquid application or?
No, it's like a mat.
Mat, that's fused to the
Mhm.
asphalt?
To the
Yep, they
paper.
just lay it down and
Right.
press it in with a roller and, if you get a chance to go through, Monticello on 25, Highway 25, through downtown there, that's the product.
Stock Rapids
It-
has it too.
And it's, you know,
No.
plows don't take it out, so it's.
Same
really-
color? Just about.
Well,
Or
you're probably talking right there where the bridge touches down.
Yeah.
That's actually a stained concrete there, and
Oh,
actually
okay.
the stain is really kind of washed out, and we're having to,
Can't see it anymore.
no, you can't.
Bill, are you gonna go across 13th at Second with the crosswalk?
Correct. Yep. And at First too, we don't have one at First Street right now, and we're gonna we'll have to put in an ADA on both sides. I think that's important to have one there. We need one at every one of those streets, 'cause
Coming across 13th and First and Second.
and Third then too.
Third.
Yep.
All right. Questions for Terry?
On First Street, are you gonna be redoing curbing and all that, or is it just the overlay?
So whenever we do these overlays or mill and fills, we go through and correct the pedestrian ramps for the new ADA standards. So we'll be doing that, and we'll be repairing any curb or sidewalk that's in disrepair.
One thing I did notice again, we had that alley all blocked off because it was flooded down by that West Street.
Floods every year, yeah.
Every
Are
year.
we gonna do anything with that, or?
We can't, we've tried. Every time we get water down there, we talk about it, and every time we figure out there's nothing we can do about it but do what we do.
I think what it is that there's a need to have some additional right-of-way, and we haven't had the desire of the property owners along that street to be able to do that. And I think Bill has had several conversations. If you guys want to do it, then bring a petition forward and the city would consider at that point. But until we see that, I don't know what else there is to do, because if you continue to put money into something like that,
To fix it, you have to have storm sewer, and to do that, we need the street to be widened a little bit, so we have to take a little bit of their property and curb and,
Take the railroad.
Gosh, yeah,
you know, it's.
it takes that whole area to get rid of it.
And just so you know too, so the new dump station will be opening up here once we get into spring, whenever that is. But once that's done, this dump station will not open up this year, and then the plan is to remove this bathroom and dump station. So as Terry's talked about, the week after Spostog, that'll be the week that we're gonna actually go out in the street and disconnect the services in the street. That's our ordinance, so we have to follow it just like anybody else. So it's primed to do that in between before the start of the project. So over there's gonna be a little bit more concrete work, cause we got 2 driveway aprons. Those will be going away, so there'll be straight curb going through there than what we have right now. So yes, there will be a little bit of concrete work on aprons or catch basins if they're failing to.
All right,
Terry, did you say you wanted Wade Avenue included in the motion
yeah.
Yes.
as an alternate? As an alternate?
You can just have a motion to approve the plans and specifications, which includes Wade Avenue as an
All right.
alternate.
Okay, I'll move to approve plans and specifications for the 2018 overlay improvement project and authorize advertising for bids as presented.
Second.
further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you, sir. Yep. Review and approve bills.
I move to approve the bills.
Second?
Further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. I do have a thank you from the Boys and Girls Club for the $2,000 donation we gave them. Also, April 3rd is Grandparents' Day, so that's tomorrow. And we do have some foster grandparents in the program that go to Discovery School and EduCare. We actually have 4 of them. Kay Hines, David Leslie, Mary Schill, 5 of them. Agnes Steichen and Marita Gordon, I always got to ask you this one. Nidlowski? Nidlowski?
You should be asking Terry, not me.
You come from Foley.
I do. But he comes from Little Falls.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Those 5 actually do work, volunteer as foster grandparents in the Waite Park area. I know we also have John Bowden, who actually is a foster grandparent too, but he actually gives his credit, I guess, to St. Cloud gets him, because he goes to Tutalahi. The only other thing I had was I need APO representatives for 2018, 2019. Right now, they're Frank, Vic, and myself. Anybody have any desires to be on that instead of, Vic, do you want to be on that yet?
Sure.
Frank's not here. Anybody want to take Frank's spot, or because he's not here, he gets it?
Well, if he's not here, you know what happens.
I don't want to take it away from him. Leave it there.
All right,
At least I volunteered.
I just tell them they're the same. All right, that's all I have.
Next meeting.
Our next, we do have a border review meeting on next Monday, April 9th. We may have a short council agenda for some minor things that we were looking at, and we will have a work session as well, and I'll get you the times once I get that finalized.
You gonna be gone? The 9th? Are you gonna be here the 9th? Oh, I thought you weren't gonna be.
I'm gonna be in the cities on the 9th.
It was supposed to be in May, that meeting. And they changed
They
it.
changed it, yeah.
It's always gonna be the second Monday of April.
April, but instead of May,
Yeah,
like they
right.
said.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, we are adjourned at 7:14.